So let's share the yep. So now I have shared the PowerPoint presentation, and we can talk about the integumentary system. So simply, what is the integumentary system? First of all, I need to know what the meaning of the integumentary system. Integument, it's coming from a cover, and that's what the skin is. The skin is covering the protect and cover the all body parts, and it is the largest organ in human body. It actually consists of mainly the skin, its derivative, which is hair, nail, and the glands. And in addition to this structure, there is a very important sensory unit, which is somatosensory receptors, like the tactile receptors, nociceptors as well, which of course is important for physiotherapy. As I said before, it is the largest organ in the human body, and it covers around from 1.5 to 2 meters square in the average adult, and it weighs around 16% of total body weight. So let's zoom in and start talking about what are the structure of the skin and what are the layers of the skin. The main section of the skin or layer of the skin is the epidermis and dermis, but we have to also include the hypodermis or the subcutaneous fatty tissue. It is not part of the skin, but due to the inability to distinguish, as you can see here, between the hypodermis and the dermis, that's why we say it is actually the whatever lies below the dermis. So I would like to talk about what are the function of the skin. Let's talk about the function of the skin. The skin is a remarkable organ. This organ acting as a first line of defense from the harmful stimuli that surround us, such as infection or bacterial invasion. It keeps the bacteria and germs out, and also it keeps the water and heat in. So it protects the body against external forces or external stimuli, thermal, chemical stimulus, which is harmful for the body, and also from any harmful radiation, such as ultraviolet radiation, for example. The other thing, it is act as thermoregulation of the body. So it regulates the body temperature by keeping the water and heat in. So it regulates the body temperature through a wide network of blood vessels and through dilation and vasoconstriction of these blood vessels, and also through the activity of the sweat glands and the hair. A very important function of the skin is it is act as the location where the synthesis of vitamin D happen, and also the triglyceride. Why vitamin D is very important? Because some patient comes with fatigue, body ache, muscle ache, bone ache. Sometimes it's as simple as these patients have deficiency of vitamin D. They don't have enough sunlight, so it will lead to lack of synthesis of vitamin D in the skin, and hence it causing all these signs and symptoms. So we talked about the function of the skin, which is very important. Let's zoom in on the structure of the skin now. So here, the main layer, as we talked before, it is the epidermis, which is above the dermis and the dermis itself. The epidermis is avascular, and the dermis is a vascular layer, or the thick inner layer. What is the differentiation between the dermis and the epidermis? The epidermis, it is the outer layer, and it is avascular, or it has the nutrition mainly through the diffusion of the fluid from the lower layer, which is the dermis. On the other hand, the dermis is a tougher layer of fibrous connective tissue, and it is rich in vascularization. It's rich in blood vessels. It has the lymph vessels as well, and it has its nutrient from the blood stream. So this is the two difference. Also, the epidermis is made of epithelial tissue. In addition to this, we also will focus mainly on the sub-layer of the epidermis. And we need to talk about each of these layers. Okay. Yep. So let's talk about this layer of the epidermis. The epidermis is consisted of 5 layers. As we said before, it is mostly epithelial tissue. So if we talk about the epidermis, it is made of 5 layers. Each layer has its own function. The most important layer is the deepest layer, which is the stratum basilae. I will start from the innermost to the outermost layer of the epidermis. So the deepest layer, as we said before, it is the stratum basilae, which is attached to the dermis. And as we can see here, I will just try to point it out so it's easy for you to see. Here, the stratum basilae, I have just did it with this red. It is a single row of keratinocyte, and it is a rapidly dividing cells at all times. So its main function is help regenerate the dead skin and produce keratin and pushing new cells up into the layers above. So this layer function is to ensure the production and regeneration of a new epidermis at all the time. This layer also contain, can you, it's not here. Yeah, have the melanocytes, okay? So it contains melanocytes and also contain tactile cells and like Merkel cells, and also the Langerhans cell, or it's called dendritic cell. And all of these play an important role in our body. For example, the melanin is the pigment which is responsible for giving it the color of the skin. And in addition, it protects our body from harmful radiation such as the ultraviolet. Tactile cells like Merkel cells, it is mainly convey pressure and touch stimuli. And the dendritic cell, Langerhans cell, as you can see here, what is this? It is actually a cell which it's responsible for immune initiation of immune response to any external stimulus, such as a foreign material or foreign germs, by initiation of either inflammation or a tolerance, we can say. So it has a lot of important cells in the stratum basali. So when we start to think about prognosis, the deeper the injury or the destruction of the skin, the worse the prognosis will be. The layer above that is stratum spinosum, and I will again try to do this. Stratum spinosum, yeah. Yep, this is it. And the stratum spinosum is a thick layer of cells with a web-like system of filament and this mesosomes. It is actually allow lots of dendritic cells that ingest the foreign substance and activate the immune system to play the role in activation of the immune system. So here you can see the dendritic cells, and these dendritic cells is playing an important role in activation of the immune system in case of infection, for example. If you look there, it looks like, can you see here? It looks like a spike. Okay, so these cells, it is, as I said before, it's several layers, and it also, due to the spiky look, it's a name prickly cells. So if you read it in other place, it's called a prickly cells. The layer above that is called the stratum granulosum. Here we can see stratum granulosum, and the stratum granulosum simply is a 4 to 6 layers. In this layer, keratinization begins. What does it mean, keratinization? This cell moves upward from the basal layers. So this is where the skin cell goes. It's far enough from the capillaries and the blood vessels and nutrient, and doesn't receive sufficient nutrients. So they are actually dead cells filled up with keratin. So why it's very important? It is start to be flattened, and it is flexible and tough and harder in order to protect the below layer of the skin. So that's why we talk about these layers are dead keratinized cell layer, which is act as a protection of the skin. Then we will move upward to the stratum lucidum. It came from the name. These cells are transparent. It is made of mainly a clear layer of cells, and they are dead keratinocytes, and it's exactly the same. It will be hard and flat enough to be able to protect the layer below. Then the last or the outermost layer is called the stratum corneum, and the stratum corneum, as we can see, it is very thick, and it is formed of 20 to 30 cell layers thick, and they are dead and enucleated cells, and that means that there is this integration of the nuclei, and it is, as I said before, can you imagine that the outer layer of the skin are dead, but in a very special way, as they have very thick membrane and filled with keratin. So they are providing a layer of protection to the innermost layer of the skin and the external environment, from the external environment tension. So we have highlighted the main layers of the epidermis and their function. So let's dig deep in and look deeper into the skin and see. Below the epidermis is the dermis, the dermal layer of the skin. The dermal layer of the skin, as we can see here, it is mainly made of a strong and flexible connective tissue, which is full of nerves and blood vessels. And also it is where the hair follicles begin. The dermis has two main sections or layers. As we can see here, papillary layers, okay, which is the outermost, and it is the one attached to the epidermis, or mainly to the stratum basilae, as we can see here. And the papillary layer is very important. It is made of thin and made of areolar connective tissue. This areolar connective tissue made a loose network of connective tissue of mainly of collagen and elastic fiber. This loose network allow the defense cells to act as patrol and defend the skin from any bacteria that made its way through the skin. So that's why it's loose connective tissue. So the word papillary, where does it come from? It is as simple as this. It came from projection. Can you see here? There is a, yep. I'm gonna take this, and there is a projection here. There is a projection in this area. It doesn't want to write. Okay. This projection. Yes. So the name came from dermal papillae, or projection of the this layer of skin into the basal layer of the epidermis. This layer contain, or the papillary layer contain, tactile cell, which convey touch, pressure, and also it's responsible for grip sensation in our fingers. So just below the papillary layer, as you can see here, these are the reticular layer, and the reticular layer is the most made of the dermis. Can you see how deep it is? Yes. So it's made of dense fibrous connective tissue that arranged irregularly. It's not regular, as we can see. So it's dense, but it's arranged irregularly. So simply, the dermis is the vascular layer of the skin, and it have its nutrient from the very rich blood network on that area. So it is simply, as I said before, it is have numerous fibroblasts, and it is have also role in the defense mechanism of the immune system as well. It contains, as I said, lymph, blood vessels, lymph, and nerve cells, and other structure, for example, the hair follicle and the sweat glands. the last or below the dermis, there is another layer, which is the hypodermis or subcutaneous fatty tissue. The subcutaneous fatty tissue is made of adipose tissue, and it is this adipose tissue where the fat deposition occurs. And it acts as an anchor to connect the dermis or the skin layer to the fascia that surround the muscles and bone. So it mainly connects the dermis to the lowermost structure, which is the fascia surround the muscles and bone. As I said before, it is not strictly part of the skin. However, because the border between the hypodermis and the dermis can be difficult to distinguish, we have to highlight the importance of the hypodermis. The hypodermis, as I said before, it is well vascularized, and it is made of loose areolar connective tissue, and it is insulating the skin. So it is also responsible for insulation or keeping the heat inside the body. So it's also have a cushioning effect, which will absorb any external forces and protect the body against these forces. So I have finished here highlighting the main structure of the integumentary system, and which is very important for us as physiotherapists. Let's just have a reflection on what will happen, for example, if there is an injury of the skin like abrasion, which have destructed the epidermal layer, but the outermost layer of the skin, but the stratum basilae or basal layer of the skin is still there. There will be a very good prognosis in this case, and there will be successful wound healing and faster regeneration of the skin, because the stratum basilae, which is responsible for replacement or a continuous regeneration of the epidermis, is still intact. What if, for example, in a second-degree burn, we have superficial partial, okay, and deep partial thickness burn. Superficial partial and deep partial thickness burn. How this is reflect on the prognosis of the case, and in terms of a good or successful wound healing with a satisfactory cosmetic appearance. The deeper the injury into the dermis, okay, the worse the prognosis will be. Because simply, as I said before, the dermis contain the very large and rich vascular network, which is responsible for the regeneration of the skin. So if we say, for example, superficial partial thickness burn, the superficial partial thickness burn, it will have part of the dermis, not all the dermis. So the lowermost blood vessel structure or network, which lies almost near the hypodermis here, or on the lower part of the dermis, it will be still intact. So there is a good prognosis in this case, and there will be a good regeneration of the skin. The deeper of the injury, which will take full thickness, for example, this means the whole skin has been injured. And even though also the hypodermis might be injured. So it is very poor prognosis, and these cases, for example, have to have a skin graft. because there is no possibility in regeneration or successful wound healing because of the injury to the blood vessels and any skin layer that have a role in the regeneration. For example, as I said before, the fibroblast lie in the reticular layer of the dermis, and it will be responsible for regeneration of the collagen tissue, and it will play a role in the wound healing. I will just stop here, and I would like actually to thank you at the end. So thank you very much for listening to the lecture, and inshallah we will talk next time about the wound healing, and I will make it the duration between the two lectures a bit longer, let's say 2 weeks, so I can prepare a very informative lecture for you next time. So thank you for listening, and I hope it was a good lecture for you.